What's the reason for their current standing?
So, in terms of almost like a credit pie sort of thing, I would go Vrabel 1.
Really?
Yeah, for setting the program. I do think some of his coaching, getting involved with Drake Maye, that you wanted from the beginning, has been a factor in terms of him being a leader and being bold and being able to be aggressive at times. I would say next would be Drake Maye. I guess you could couple that. No, we'll just leave Drake Maye by himself. And then I would say Josh McDaniels after that. I think in terms of, they have no running game. They have a highly efficient pass offense. I don't think anybody after week 1 would have thought Drake Maye would be an MVP candidate after week 6. But here we are. And so how does Josh McDaniels not get some credit for that?
The Patriots' current standing, which has exceeded a lot of expectations. Where do you start in terms of how they got here? Greg Bedard starts with Vrabel and then goes from there. Where do you start?
Yeah, I mean, not unsurprisingly, I think this is a continuation of just a philosophical difference that Greg Bedard and I have. It doesn't mean one of us is right and one is wrong, or that somebody's behaving in a way that they shouldn't.
No, Chris, you're right and Greg is wrong.
I didn't say that. That was Jimmy that said that. I start with Drake Maye. I start with Drake Maye as the quarterback, as a 23-year-old being asked to do some of the things he's being asked to do in the Josh McDaniels system. And I do think they've tweaked it. And I do think this offense is a hybrid of some of Josh's stuff and some of the stuff that Vrabel wanted. And they've done a good job, as coaches should do, of taking advantage of what Drake Maye does well. But when you look at Drake Maye, there's some times this year that he's had to throw the cape on and really carry this offense. And I'm not sure that people thought, even though I thought he was the guy, I didn't think he could play this well this soon. And when you look at the prior 3 years with the Patriots, particularly the last 2, one of the biggest issues was their inability to score enough points to win games. And Drake Maye, I think, is the one that has changed that. Some of the plays he's made, you go to the Buffalo game, some of the plays he made against New Orleans, even going back to Miami. And look, he's not out there alone, but he is elevating the group of players he's out there with the exception of Stephon Diggs. So I start with Drake Maye because I think it starts with the quarterback and him exceeding expectations. And look, does the coaching staff deserve some credit for the development of Drake Maye? Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. They deserve some of that credit. But I'm just sort of over the idea of coaches absolutely making players that have the talent level of a Drake Maye. Yes, there are systems that can do it. You look at what Kyle Shanahan's doing with Mac Jones. I'll give Kyle Shanahan that credit. But this is mostly the player.
Where do you go next?
I would say next I would go to upgrading the roster via free agency and the number 4 pick. And that includes Mike Vrabel in terms of his program and what he wanted to do with bringing in Ryan Cowden and what they did overall with player personnel. But there's no question this is a better roster than what they had last year. And I will say it's a better roster than I thought it was. I knew they had upgraded. Frankly, it couldn't have gotten much worse than what they had last year. That's one of the worst NFL rosters I've ever seen or that I've ever covered in my time covering the league. So it had to be better. But some of the guys they brought in, I think, have made a bigger impact than we thought. I wrote before the year 4 things that had to go right if the Patriots were going to be in playoff contention. Drake Maye making the leap was one, but number 2 was Steph Diggs being their version of Alex Bregman. And he's absolutely been that in terms of being a leader, changing the culture, being productive. Milton Williams has been fantastic. Spillane got off to a slow start, but he's been really good of late. So I think upgrading the roster, and Vrabel gets a lot of credit for that, but that's number 2 for me, more talent. Again, it's about the players, and Vrabel says that himself. It's about the players. So that's 1 and 2 is about the players for me.
3.
Vrabel as the coach. Having Vrabel as the coach to me has been key, but I put it number 3. And also within that, I would say that while I think this is a far more competent coaching staff than what they had last year, I don't think on a week-to-week basis they are outsmarting, outmaneuvering, outclassing everybody on X's and O's, and that's why the team is 4-2 in first place. I think what Vrabel's done a tremendous job of is establishing a culture and getting buy-in and belief and getting these guys to believe that they can be better than a lot of us thought they would be. He's been able to knock that losing off of them. He's done a great job of rebuilding this culture and establishing a winning attitude. So I think the way he's been able to relate to people, get the most out of people, I would start with that. The X's and O's have been good. They've been great on defense, but I don't think this is a situation where it's like Belichick and you're just outclassing everybody from an X's and O's standpoint, because you're still a little undisciplined. You still give up too many big plays in the passing game, and you still commit way too many penalties.
So I agree with this last piece, and it's sort of interested me from the start because schematically, I don't, even you said they've been great defensively. I feel like, as someone once said, Spencer Rattler just took a dump on your face. Another way to say it is Spencer Rattler picked you apart. So, I haven't come out of any of these games, I know I hate to do this, but in some of those Belichick years or those Belichick games where you said, well, he really pulled a number on this guy, and he really did this, and they really picked on that, and they really exposed that. And you could see it coming out of those games because, when Bill had his fastball, they had those days. I haven't seen, hardly anything like that this year, Chris. So, how is Vrabel doing it? Well, I'm sorry, guys. Hold on.
No. Let Chris go first. I would say, to me, there's one instance where I would say I don't think the coaching decided the game, but I think it helped.
Where?
Defense against Buffalo. I thought in that game they went with a little bit more of a structured plan, and they played more man-to-man. And, they obviously didn't want to take, but they kept Allen from hurting them with his legs. And to me, they minimized Allen's effectiveness out of the pocket.
Maybe so. Chris.
But that's true. They did a good job with that. And where I said they've been great on defense, I should have specified. They've been great against the run. They're one of the best teams in the league defending the run. They've been tremendous there. And I agree with Mazz in that in terms of the Buffalo game. I would give the coaching staff some credit. They totally took James Cook out of that game. And I don't want it to sound like I'm taking anything away from them. But also remember, Mazz, in that game, there were 2 turnovers Buffalo had that were all Buffalo.
Absolutely.
One was they tried to run that stupid jet sweep.
Yep, absolutely.
And then Keon Coleman just dropped the ball pretty much. So, that was – I wouldn't put that one up there, and I'm not saying you're doing this, but that wasn't like 2021 in Buffalo, Belichick versus, the wind.
No, definitely
It wasn't like one of those game plans.
No, it's the closest thing that you got, though. That's it.
And offensively, I'm sorry.
That was all Maye.
That was Maye just running out mostly to his right and just diming out, short, intermediate, and long balls, just playmaking. The first touchdown in New Orleans, I'll give him credit for that. Max protected, wide open, that was a good scheme play. That you can see. So I would agree. I don't come out of these games being blown away by scheme.
No,
and
I
I'll
agree.
give the offense credit for this. Sorry, Mazz. I will say I thought Miami, they did a good job schematically with the boots and the play action and instituting that stuff and taking advantage of Miami and doing what Maye does best. So I offensively, I give the coaching staff a lot of credit for that game. But again, I'm giving them credit and they deserve it. But the credit is taking advantage of something that your quarterback already does really, really well.
All right, Chris, what's the red flag for you right now?
The biggest red flag for me is their utter inability, and I was in New Orleans for this game. I covered this game, and so their utter inability to use the running game to either protect Drake Maye, to complement Drake Maye, or to close out some of these games. It is really alarming what you're looking at. And so many weeks in a row on Patriots Preview, whether it's with Murray or Mark Bertrand, we have our esteemed guests on and we talk about it and they say, well, this is the week they're going to be able to run the ball. This is the week. It's Pittsburgh's terrible against the run. They'll be able to. Buffalo's weak against the run. New Orleans is weak again. They haven't been able to run the ball in these games. If you look at last week and you take away Drake Maye's runs, his scrambles, Ramondre Stevenson and Travion Henderson, 22 rushes between those 2 guys for 45 yards. In the fourth quarter, again, I'm taking away the kneel downs of Drake Maye. In the fourth quarter, minus kneel downs, the Patriots rushed 7 times for 3 yards. Ugh. I mean, you have to be able to close out. And how did they close out that game? How did they ultimately make sure the ball didn't get back to New Orleans?
Pass.
Yeah.
On 3rd and 11.
Yep.
To Booty, yeah.
Yeah, the ball to Booty. Yeah.
Chris, is it on the line or is it on the backs?
It is on the backs, if you believe a lot of the advanced metric stuff. If you look at this, if you look at next-gen stats, NFL Pro, anybody that looks at that site, it says they're in the middle of the pack in rushing yards before contact. In fact, they're right in the middle. They're 16th out of 32 teams, 1.31 yards. They are dead last in the NFL in rushing yards after contact. at 2.22. So the running backs aren't doing enough. They're also dead last in the NFL in percentage of 4 yards or more gained on a rush on first down and percentage of rushes overall that go for 4 or more yards. So maybe Drake Maye can pull a 1994 Drew Bledsoe, but this is asking a lot of Drake Maye if there's going to be absolutely no run game here to complement him. And really, the most important part of that is what I just mentioned. When Drake Maye and the offense builds a lead and you want to be able to close out the game, you need to be able to run the ball to take some time off the clock.
Should they be looking at the trade market?
1,000%.
Who's your guy?
I'll tell you, one of the guys I like is a guy that they're actually playing on Sunday, Tony Pollard. If it's a situation where it's going to be a tear down in Tennessee, Tony Pollard is a guy where, yeah, the contract is a little bit beefy for a running back, but the Patriots have all the cap space in the world, and it's not like they couldn't get out of that contract moving forward. So that's one of the guys that I would be looking at if I were them to try and beef up this running game. I think you just need to introduce another back here. I will say, I do think there's a breakout Travion Henderson game in here somewhere. I really do. I think he's better than this, and he will be. But I also feel like even if he's that, you need another option at this point, just in case Ramondre Stevenson doesn't come out of this, and he's just kind of, when he runs now, it looks like he's just trying not to fumble.
All right, let's continue. Yeah, Mazz?
No, totally true. He is. He's got it wrapped up. He's like, let me just get to the ground without
Get me to the ground.
Yeah, and not the ball.
Which is a bad swing thought for a running back.